Monty, SLC got hockey, you lucky stiff.
Stay hard.
You don't even have to go to the games and you get to pay. Billionaire needs your subsidy.
It's awesome, isn't it?
Okay. Let's talk about this.
Again.
We show up.
Is the NHL in Utah financially viable? This to me is a big deal. So multiple announcements, news stories have come out the last week or so. Big one yesterday. Ryan Smith bought and we don't know the details yet. Ryan Smith bought a dilapidated shopping mall and intends to, I would think, develop part of that shopping mall into a practice facility and a youth hockey facility, and include the offices of the new NHL in Utah Yetis. And he intends to do that within a year. Okay. I'm actually thrilled with this. By all accounts, directly, there's no taxpayer money involved. The city of Sandy gets to redevelop a dying plot of land. Shopping malls, as we all know, are not long for this world. I'm thrilled with it. Interested to see what the final plan looks like. Interested to see how much of that mall he actually uses and what he does with it. Going to be really important for hockey in the community. I love that. Great move by Ryan Smith. And then, and I know, listen, I criticize the media in Salt Lake City and the state of Utah on a regular basis because I think they're a bunch of pushovers. I think the TV media in this town is absolutely filleting at the tip of Ryan Smith.
Facts.
There's no doubt about that, right? But the newspapers in this town, including the Deseret News, which is owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and the Salt Lake Tribune, much to his credit, Andy Larson, heavily involved in the reporting on this. I've criticized Andy in the past. I do not criticize him now. Freedom of information requests to get the official application, which kicked off the process of screwing taxpayers in the state of Utah, the county of Salt Lake, and the city of Salt Lake. And what do you know? What did Ryan Smith and the Smith Entertainment Group, what did they ask for? Okay, we already know they're getting bond money for the next 8,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting a lot of tax dollars through bonds. Increased sales tax. Okay, great. I think it's an absolute travesty that we are giving a billionaire $1 billion in taxpayer money. Turns out that's not all he's asking for. Ryan Smith, who currently controls one city block where the Delta Center resides, doesn't want just one city block, doesn't want just 2 city blocks. Ryan Smith wants full control over 3 city blocks. And he wants control of the tax dollars generated from those 3 city blocks. You know what else he wants? He wants to remove all zoning limitations as to height and use. So he can build tall buildings. You know what he wants to do with one of the tall buildings that'll be built? He wants to build a heliport. You know, a little pad where Jetcopter 69 can land on top of a building, because currently you can't do that downtown because there are zoning restrictions. So let me get this right. We're giving a guy that, by all accounts and in the press, is being described as a sports billionaire tycoon. That's what the media, who is filleting Ryan Smith repeatedly, that's what they're calling him, a billionaire sports tycoon. Why are we giving him taxpayer dollars? The guy just bought a fucking shopping center. Why are we giving him taxpayer dollars? He wants control of 3 city blocks. He's getting $1 billion in taxpayer subsidies already to renovate Delta Center, to put the NHL team in downtown Salt Lake. And now he's asking for billions more in the revenue from people spending money in that 3-block area that he wants to be given to him. He's not paying for it. He's not buying it. It's being given to him. So wait, we're going to give you the land, $1 billion to renovate your stadium, and you're going to keep the tax revenue from those 3 blocks of land that we are giving to you. Somebody tell me why. Why are we doing this? Help me understand this. Because in the application, what does Ryan Smith say? Well, the NHL is going to create new jobs and retain jobs. Okay, just asking for a friend. Where's the research to back that up? Well, Monty, the NHL is going to generate new revenue. Okay, where's the research to back that up? Because I've tweeted it multiple times. Studies have forever suggested. Now, in hindsight, we've been able to go back and analyze the impact that NHL arenas and teams have had on the areas that they call home. They do not create new jobs. They do not retain new jobs. They do not bring economic growth and development. They do not. Especially when they are the lone proprietor there. Now, well, Monty, they've got the NBA there. Okay. Still, the NBA is the bigger draw, and the NHL has been shown not to be able to support bond initiatives, not to create economic growth and development, not to create jobs, not to create the ability to, pay off bonds. And here's the best part of this, and maybe the largest irony. Do you see what they're leaving behind in Glendale? The Yetis that everybody finds so themselves enamored with. The NHL in Utah is going to be such a smashing success. They've left tens of millions of dollars of debt in the city of Glendale. They were so non-profitable that the city of Phoenix and Maricopa County would not subsidize them, would not approve tax dollars. The voters would not approve tax dollars. So we're going to move that non-profitable team to Salt Lake City, and we're going to sell it to a guy that's a billionaire sports tycoon who's not spent money to win NBA games, to win soccer games. Anything he's touched in sports has not won at the highest level, not competed at the highest level. And again, I ask you, what has Ryan Smith done? What actions has he put forward that tell us this is going to be amazing? Is he going to win Stanley Cups? What has he done with the Jazz that makes me think he's going to now take that same formula? And if we just do some common sense here, I know, get crazy with common sense and stuff. If we just use common sense here, don't we expect him to manage the soon-to-be Yetis or whatever we're going to call the NHL in Utah? Shouldn't we expect him to manage the NHL franchise the same way he manages the NBA franchise? Why would we expect him to do different? Okay, what has he done with the NBA franchise? Gutted his roster, gutted his payroll, and has not spent money. So is he going to all of a sudden spend money on the NHL? Are we all of it? That's what we should believe. Yeah, I don't think that's what we should believe. And I certainly don't think that that's all of a sudden going to change the way that Ryan Smith spends his money.
Yeah, I don't know why it would, right? I mean, I don't know why would he change? Why would you deviate? Why would you do anything different than you've been doing? And in the struggle that I have in my perspective is just that, yeah, like you haven't really brought revenue back into the city. I mean, yeah, sure, you've got an NBA team there, but there's a reason, and I always go back to this, and I know it upsets people, but there's a reason they were selling $12 tickets at the end of the season, man. Nobody was interested in the Jazz. Nobody was just clamoring to get into that building to see the Jazz play a game. And it's sad because I actually believe that Delta Center, which when Don was here was Vivint Smart Home Arena, is one of the best home court advantages in the league, provided that the Jazz are good. Because when Utah sports fan shows up, usually they're pretty good, right? Like they're loud, they are engaged, like they're pretty good. But they also are not willing to spend their hard-earned dollars in a place that's getting more expensive to live by the day, it seems, on a team that's just garbage. And I don't know what, like, if you can't win in the NBA, because remember, and I always go back to this too. Remember the marketing ploy when he bought the Jazz? Hey, I'm a Jazz fan, grew up like in Utah, like I'm a Utah guy just like you, and snapback tech guy who, startup, American dream, all this feel good stuff. And since then, it just hasn't turned into anything. And so, am I excited that there's going to be an NHL team in Utah? Yeah, I mean, it'll be fun to go and see the Hawks. It'll be fun to go and see some hockey games.
Oh, it's not a matter of will people
but-
support it early on.
Yeah, it's a matter of if they're going to support it long term, and if it's going to get support to the point where
Will Ryan support it? Will the owner spend the money that's required to keep fan sentiment high? It's not, listen, fans in Utah are going to support sports in Utah if they win. Was the Huntsman Center full when the running Utes are bad? It was not. Was the Marriott Center full when the BYU basketball team is bad? It was not. Are football stadiums full when the teams are bad? They were not. Was the Delta Center full when the Jazz were Rudy and Don Boyan going to the Western Conference Finals, going to the playoffs? Yes, it was. Was it full during the pandemic? Yes, it was. Fans will support a winning team. Did the Jazz this past season sell tickets for $12 in the lower bowl? Yes, they did. And why is that? Because nobody was buying tickets. And why is that? Because the Jazz were pitifully bad.
Yeah.
So when the Yetis start playing and Ryan Smith, I would guess in the first 2 years will spend what has to be spent. Hopefully, and I'm hoping he will spend what has to be spent to make this team a contender. There is no way you're going to convince me he is going to spend Stanley Cup style money. I just don't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
We've never seen him do that.
Yeah, well, and I think the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior, and that's why I say, like, and again, this is where I say you can't have it both ways. So again, your behaviors as an owner don't line up with what you're asking for here. Imagine the position that Ryan Smith would be in if the Jazz had simply gone to the NBA Finals. If you had just made an appearance and you had been consistently good the last 3 seasons. If that was the case, we probably wouldn't even be sitting here complaining. At that point, I can say, okay, yeah, I don't love the fact that, taxpayers are going to help renovate this arena. But the reality is Ryan's invested. He spent money. They're good. Like, I get it.
Look on the screen. This is what Ryan Smith is asking for. 99-year lease for the block now home to the Delta Center. No problem. The arena's there. Got to do it. 2 blocks east of the Delta Center from Salt Lake County. So he wants 3 full blocks. Smith Entertainment Group, quote, to keep the money generated by the sales tax increase for 30 years, with the exception of 1% administrative fee paid to the city. I'm totally against that. Potentially requiring tax increment financing, a tool that, quote, allows developers to tap new property tax revenue created in the area. No. The creation of public infrastructure district, such as districts are, quote, able to issue bonds for things like roads. No. Because what does that mean? Bonds. Somebody else is going to pay for it, right? Ryan Smith wants the city to revise zoning ordinances to eliminate maximum height limitations. He wants tall buildings in the project zone and identify arenas, stadiums, heliports. He wants a helicopter pad, parking, commercial, and parking offsite as permitted uses. No. Do you understand? He's a billionaire sports tycoon, as described by the Salt Lake Fillators, the media. the TV and radio folks who will not dare question him.
Mm-hmm.
If he's a billionaire sports tycoon, why are we giving him money?
And I think, the best part about this whole conversation is we have living examples right now in other markets of owners doing it on their own,
Yes.
and having huge success. And this is the part where if I was talking to Ryan Smith, this is what I would bring up to him. I would say, dude, you had a goal here. You identified the Coyotes 5 years ago as a potential opportunity on the horizon that you could make a move on in the coming years. Because if you're Ryan Smith, you're looking at things in a 5-year window here, right? A 5-year perspective. Hey, I'm like before he owned the Jazz. Hey, Qualtrics has a multi-billion-dollar valuation now. Can I sell a piece of that to bring in liquidity to buy the Jazz from the Millers? Yes, I can. Okay. Well, if I do that, what kind of impact is that going to have? So back then, when he was making that decision, the thing I would have said to Ryan Smith is if you're going to do this and you've already identified the situation in Phoenix as something that's attractive to you, why go in and gut the roster? Why go in and cut spending and do it in a way where you brought in Danny and built up expectation in the fan base only to cut the roster and basically have Danny operating with two hands tied behind his back? Oh, that's right. Because you're not a real billionaire. You're a billionaire on paper. You're not a billionaire from a liquidity standpoint. And the reason I bring this up is because if Ryan Smith was a billionaire in liquidity, like if he had $1 billion or more than that sitting in bank accounts or maybe stock options that he could liquidate easily, he wouldn't be asking for public money, because this is one truth that we know to be true for all time's sake. Anybody who's got that kind of money does not want to deal with the public, does not want to deal with the red tape of the government. They want to go and do what they do. They want to be operating freely. They just want to go out and do what they do. So you're really telling me a guy that's this smart, a guy that grew his company, sold a piece of it to get the liquidity, you're really telling me that this guy wants to be dealing with the government and wants to be asking for this money? No, dude, you're doing something you can't afford. And that's why you're asking for the money. And then you want to gift wrap it and shove it down our throat like it's some positive thing. And again, we're not now the only ones asking. Like,
thankfully,
hey, like, why is the public paying for this? They're not paying for it in Kansas City. They're not paying for it in Los Angeles. They're
not paying for it in Phoenix.
They're not paying for it in Chicago. They're not paying for it in Phoenix. Yet somehow, some way, we're paying for it in Salt Lake.
Without a vote of the people.
So help me understand, Ryan Smith, when someone not named the Monty program asks you directly at a conference, hey, like why is the public needing to pay for this? You just want to sidestep that question and say, well, it's going to take everyone. And, we show up and Utah sport, like, dude.
We show up is I'm going to make money on ticket revenue. Okay. So when you make that money on ticket revenue, are you going to give it back to the county and the city? You're not. When you sell Yeti jerseys, are you going to give that? You're not. When you sell $55 beers, you're not.
You can't even make a jersey rebrand that people like. And you're supposed to expect me to believe that you can take public funds and build a 3-block district in the next 5 years that somehow is just going to be teeming with life. This is the other thing. So we're literally talking about, if you've never been to downtown Salt Lake, you're talking about reworking probably 30% of the city at least.
And not the dilapidated areas.
Yeah, like the nice areas.
The thing that I'm also worried about is like a Bravenel Hall is a music venue and a beautiful one that I actually now am frequenting. Are we going to lose that? What is he going to do with the convention center, the Salt Palace? That's the stuff that I'm concerned about. Who's got oversight about what he's able to do? And why do we need buildings with helipads? Why do we need that? Oh, and what about Draper? Because don't forget, this is the same guy who wanted to leave the city and go to Draper, where I believe he bought land. So help me understand why everybody is so hell-bent to give this guy billions of dollars. I do like the shopping mall. This is reasonable. He says SCG's plan includes building a state-of-the-art NHL practice and training facility on the 111-acre site at the shops at Southtown. Smith Entertainment Group will release more details about the construction plans and the layout and configuration at a later date.
So we all know that shopping malls are obviously going the wrong direction. It's well documented. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. I've been to the Southtown Mall multiple times. It's not a horrible mall, but it's also a mall. Like, it's not as busy as it once used to be. And my only question about this is, and I don't even say this in a critical light, I'm just genuinely curious. When you go from a mall to, let's say, an NHL practice facility, how do you ingratiate the public into that facility? Like,
well, and my question is, does the mall go away?
yeah, like, is the mall going away? Are you, because if the mall is going to, like, let's say he takes a chunk of the mall, like one wing of the mall, and redevelops that space for the practice facility and their offices, and they use that space. Does that help the mall or does that hurt the mall? And how does that affect what's happening there now? Because again, it's not like the mall is like popping off, right? Like it's not. So I don't even mind the location. This location is prime. This is right off a major freeway in the 15. There's a bunch of retail around it. Like I'll say
PGA
this,
Superstore's right across the street,
100%.
man.
Like, and I'll say this too. There's a lot of youth hockey stuff that happens at the Maverick Center here in West Valley City. That's probably more suited for Sandy, Draper, that area versus West Valley. So, like, situationally, this is a good thing. This is
and
a good
it's
fit.
closer to his house. Like, listen,
I get that.
I'm just curious what's going to happen with the land, but we'll see. I am excited about the mall proposition. I think that's very good. We'll just have to see what.
I just can't get around the deceptiveness of this situation. No. I can't get around the idea that Ryan Smith is telling you he's being honest, but in my heart of hearts, I don't believe he is. I don't genuinely believe that Ryan Smith is being honest about this.
About what specifically?
Like about how the tax situation. First of all, why the tax situation is necessary. I would love for someone who has access to Ryan Smith, because this is the other thing, he doesn't give access to himself to almost anybody. So someone who has access to ask him, hey, well, we've seen in other markets, Ryan, LA, Kansas City, even Phoenix, Chicago, certainly in most recent times, the public has voted this down. Why do you need tax money as a billionaire? Right? Because you're a billionaire, you have all this money. Why is it that you need tax money? He'll never answer that question. Ever. Not one time will he ever answer that.
But why is it? Yeah, I could go on. Let's get your comments. Eric and Raleigh. Ryan Smith is executing a coup against the city of Salt Lake. I don't know if I'm ready to get that.
Yeah, that's a little aggressive, bro.
Brandon Butler, this is the start of a negotiation with the city council. Let's see if they bend over and give him this. I think this is very much the start of a negotiation, but it's the audacity of what you're asking for. It is the audacity of, hey, I want 3 city blocks when we have affordable housing crisis. I want taxpayer money and the benefit of keeping the money that's generated through taxes when we have teacher, first responder, addiction issues in our community. When we have kids who are hungry, that's a huge problem for me. That's a huge problem for me. Bobby Fowler, I'm not much informed on this, and you guys are in Utah, and you're right there. I'm just getting my info from you guys. But if this guy is so rich, why is he asking everybody and their dog for money? Which has been our question from the jump on this.
Yeah.
Because he's not invested his billions into winning.
Yeah. And people have criticized us for that and said, oh, you guys are just hating on the Jazz and these are dumb takes and clown questions. And it's like, yeah, it's not going to be a clown question when you're seeing that money coming out of your bank account, when you're seeing that you have to pay for more things.
Hotel taxes. Like food. And this is the other part of this that I continue to ask. There's this new study we're going to talk about in a minute that says Utah is the best place to live.
Mm-hmm.
But is it getting cheaper or more expensive? It's getting more expensive.
Yeah.
And it seems like we in this state have a propensity to give billions to billionaires. Like, we haven't even talked about the Smith that whole Smith group and what they're asking for on top of what Gail Miller and her group is asking for a baseball stadium that we just don't need. Right? So we tend to do things in this town that make no sense. But food's getting more expensive, but you're going to bitch about the food, yet you want to give Ryan Smith all this tax money.
Yeah.
Hotels, tourism is getting more expensive. You want to bitch about that, but yet you want to give Ryan Smith all these tax dollars.
Yeah.
Your parking, your ticket costs, your everything downtown is going to be more expensive. I was just downtown at Ruth's Chris the other night, and it's a ghost town. And you're like, we need more people downtown. We need economic development. What's the object of economic development? What is the reason that you want to gentrify and push out the old dilapidated buildings and people and bring in new, hip, better? Well, because that brings more
money,
tax dollars. But you're not going to realize those tax dollars because Ryan Smith wants to keep a lion's share of the money in the 3 blocks he's going to own that he's not going to have to pay for, that you're going to give to him so he can keep that tax revenue. So what's the point of it? And again, I just go back to the first thing that I brought up here. The NHL does not make municipalities money.
Yeah.
Has anybody on the state legislature, the county board, the city council, has anybody stopped and asked if there was an economic impact study done? Has anybody asked, well, we already have a water table problem in this town. We're already running short on water. What is the impact on our ecosystem from this project, where we're going to build taller buildings so we can have the billionaire whose helicopter we're paying for landed on top of a building? Has anybody thought about that? Has anybody thought about the fact that, you're building massive buildings so a billionaire can land his helicopter up there? Has anybody thought about that?
Yeah, don't get it.
I don't believe that anybody's thought about that. I truly do not.
And I think the culture in Salt Lake is very much like, oh, there's this new idea. Let's just jump on it. Let's just, we got to go and do that. And it's like, bro, like, there are prices to be paid. I mean, why do you think that the Mountain West region, if you will, LA, Phoenix, Las Vegas, certainly, Denver a bit, are struggling with water? Because we just say yes to everything. We don't say no. And again, I love the NHL. I'm excited to go to games.
This is not a hockey problem.
It's not a hockey problem, dude. It's a economic, like, quality of life thing. And I think you make a great point. Like, it is a ghost town down there. There isn't like some teeming situation happening. And again, I love the concept of, hey, we're going to revitalize this portion of downtown. And they make it seem like that's going to happen in like 18 months, 2 years. Do you understand? That's like a 10-year thing at least.
And already downtown, there, like, the old is being pushed out already. Do you know how many, and you don't, but for all our Utahns, look at all the apartment buildings that are going up downtown. Like, we were driving to Ruth's Chris the other night in awe because, of course, the map program took us through some, asshat village direction. Yeah. And it's just like all of this new development. And then the ballpark's going away because the Salt Lake Bees, the AAA baseball team, are moving out to Daybreak.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have new construction that is already underway in Daybreak that is absolutely going to wreak havoc out there. And we're going to have now new construction there. And I'm not trying to be an asshole about this, but again, we can't control where our water is flowing underground. Do you guys, you understand that? In northern Utah specifically, we have so much construction, we've disrupted the water table to the point where we're having flooding in areas that are not flood zones. Like the South Jordan River Trail. Part of it's closed. I'm not sure if it's still closed. I'm going to guess it is because we're going through the melt right now.
Yeah.
Where water is flowing into places it's not supposed to be flowing. And why is that? Because we've put so many foundations in the ground and we have disrupted the water table. So now if we want water to flow to the Great Salt Lake, it can't even easily do that because we've disrupted the water table with so much concrete.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we're going to build more high rises downtown that are going to increase our eco footprint so we can land helicopters for billionaires on top of that building.
Seems smart.
It just doesn't make sense. Good morning, Mad Cat. I still love that helmet. Fowler says the dude sounds like an egocentric a-hole. He is an odd duck. Ryan Smith is not easy to like. Ryan Smith is that guy who showed up as this savior and has saved nothing. Nothing. He is not spent on the Jazz. He is not nothing. And everybody's like, well, Monty improved the Gobert contract. That was like his first 15 minutes as the owner.
Yeah.
What choice did he have?
And by the way, is that money still in the books?
What choice did he have? He had no choice. Big Daddy Magic. The Rock is the people's champion. Okay, cool. What are you talking about? Exotic Adrian Street. It's outrageous we aren't even able to vote on this.
Yeah. And
No, not going to a ballot.
Dude, I think that's the single most in-your-face thing about this whole situation. You didn't put it to a public vote, and there's only one reason for that. Because you know what the answer is, yet you're still going to do this.
Yeah. Brandon Butler, the mall isn't going away. They are putting practice sheets that will be available to youth hockey. Right, that's what we were talking about. I'm curious how much of the mall, like what is he planning on doing? Because there's no definitive answer. I've seen everything from they're going to bulldoze the mall, which I have a hard time believing.
Yeah.
To they're going to take sections of the mall and they're going to build a practice facility in multiple sheets.
Well,
which
that's what makes sense to me is like you would take one wing of the mall, you would choose a wing of the mall, and you would take that wing for this development. And you would just marry them up together. So,
yeah,
I mean, we see that all the time with, like businesses. I've seen it like as a kid, like, there was a Chuck E. Cheese built into a mall as a kid. And you would go to Chuck E. Cheese, have a bunch of fun, and then you'd go and walk around the mall.
Mom would leave the kids at Chuck E. Cheese and go shop in the mall.
Yeah. Like that makes sense.
I'm assuming that's what we're going to do. And I'm assuming that, and I know they've already said the team store is going to be there. Their offices are going to be there. I think it's going to be a reason to go there. Your kids are at hockey practice. I'm going to go to Ulta. I'm going to go to Sephora.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get my nails done. That's what I would assume.
So it makes a lot of sense. I like the practice facility thing. I like that. I think that we need, like, when we were in our time with the Grizzlies, like it's very clear that Salt Lake has a need a bit for youth hockey facilities and like more resources in that area. There's no question about that. And I think that this practice facility will accomplish that. Absolutely.
I agree.
I just want it to be a clean cut plan. I want it to look good.
I want it to be in daylight.
Good.
I want it to be in front of everybody and everybody be like, yeah, this is what our community needs. I vote yes.
Yes.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
Hey, if you want to vote yes to build skyscrapers downtown and give him a complete free pass on taxes, that's up to you. I'm not doing that, but that's up to you. At least give people a chance to approve it. No, I don't think there's anybody who's like, oh, we don't want hockey here. I don't think anybody's saying that. I want hockey here. I'm a huge Blackhawk fan. We've talked about this on the show. What I'm telling you is I do not want my tax dollars going to Ryan Smith. I do not want to pay more hotel tax. I do not want to pay more food tax. I do not want to pay more parking tax and have all of it line his pockets for the next 30 to 50 years.
Yeah, it's really disappointing.
I'm not interested in that. Glenn says, sounds like Salt Lake City is being Shohei Ohtani'd by Ryan Smith. Well, the gambler's hitting home runs again for the Dodgers.
Yeah, so at least he's winning.
Exotic Adrian Street. Everybody who approved this should be voted out immediately. Well, they won't come on the show because we've asked them to.
And I'm being genuine here. We've legitimately asked Ryan Smith to come on the show, what,
100
times at least? And that's not a stretch. That's legit.
Nobody in Salt Lake City is held accountable for the things that they do. That's not the culture in this town. The church takes care of the church. Nobody in this town is going to call out Ryan Smith. They don't have the balls to do it. He owns the media here. Nobody on any of the sports stations here will call him out for this. Nobody. And again, that's why I give Andy Larson a lot of credit. He's one of the guys spearheading this information being brought to light at the Tribune.
I love it.
I'm a little surprised that the Deseret News got involved in this. Little surprised by that. Giggity. Hockey moms in Sandy. I think old Teddy Wayman will be moving his hunting grounds a little north.
Teddy.
I miss Teddy. Mike Smith, those LDS ties come in handy. State and local government there is dominated by LDS members. It is. Smith is big in the LDS church. Rich guys stroking rich guys, or is it soaking rich guys?
You got to get stroked.
Don't disagree
Honestly,
with
that's
you.
our stroking guys.
Don't disagree with you at all. Brady Cook, someone needs to make Ryan accountable. Nobody will. Nobody will. Big Daddy Magic. Hey, player, we don't need baseball in Utah. Yet the Miller family and the Miller companies want money for a baseball stadium.
But see, again, with the baseball stadium, that makes more sense to me with how they're trying to do that than what we're doing with this hockey situation. At least with the baseball stadium, you can make a very strong case. Hey, we're going to get a ton of people that walk to this stadium. We are going to load this thing up with events and community stuff. And like, there's going to be all kinds of stuff we can do for Harriman, South Jordan, Daybreak at this facility. Now, I would agree. This is not a baseball town. This is not a baseball state.
No.
It is completely unnecessary to be building a new baseball stadium. However, at least I can feel good about the fact that, hey, there's money on this part of the valley. People will go to these games. And to that I say, okay, fine. I acquiesce. But that's the problem with downtown. You're trying to sell me that, you know, with all due respect, a pile of crap for a downtown is all of a sudden going to be turned into some diamond, you know, with this plan. I just don't buy that on its face. I don't.